Good morning. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. It is Thursday. That means it's time for another Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. These are individuals who have active warrants out. They are fugitives. They are on our streets, and a simple call can bring them in. All innocent until proven guilty, but they are facing some serious charges. They need to be brought in and stand in front of a judge and hear those charges. We know that this program works. We work every week with Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County to feature 3 individuals. We're at about a 38% capture rate, meaning at least one of the 3 individuals we're going to show you today is probably going to get brought in the next couple of weeks. Case in point, if you're a regular viewer last week, we featured Albert Fontanez. Has multiple felony cases. This is an individual wanted on multiple robberies. He has a choice of weapon. In the one assault in 2021, he used a car. In a 2022 assault and robbery, he used a baseball bat. He was featured last Thursday. The word got out. Bounty hunter picked him up, turned him into the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department Saturday morning. That means within hours of being featured, he was brought in and will now face a judge for those very serious charges. As we do every week, we're going to bring in Detective Red Dyer with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Red, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing amazing, Dan. Ready to feature some more individuals.
Yeah, yet another individual off the street last week. We've been having some incredible success the last couple of weeks. And that is in large part to our viewers. If you're watching this on social media, even though this is on a lot of digital platforms right now, share this video. We know how important Facebook is. We know how powerful it is. Simply by sharing this video, it gets in front of more eyeballs. You may be able to help clean up our streets by turning in a fugitive who may be up to no good on our streets. Red, our first case, very serious. This is a murder charge. We're going to get to Lonnie Griffin. What do we know about Lonnie Griffin?
Well, Dan, as you said, very serious charge. We know that this case originates out of the Maple Heights Police Department. Miss Griffin is wanted in connection with a murder, as well as multiple counts of aggravated robbery and burglary. According to this indictment, the murder was alleged to have been committed during the robbery, and unfortunately, when we see crimes like this committed, they can often lead to violent ends. Miss Griffin's co-defendants on this case are currently in custody, and we're in need of information from our wonderful community on Miss Griffin's location so this case can further proceed. She also has warrants with Maple Heights for criminal damaging and Shaker Heights for driving under suspension. She's approximately 5'4" and 185 pounds and was last known to be staying in the 4500 block of Lee Road in Cleveland.
And Red, I want to take a second to make sort of a point here that people may not understand. While this was a robbery that ended in a murder, nobody is saying that Lonnie Griffin pulled that trigger. But if you commit a crime with a group of individuals, whether you're holding the gun or not, and that crime ends up in the death, the murder of an individual, you can face murder charges. You may want to go into court and say, hey, I didn't pull the trigger. That does not matter in the state of Ohio. You were there. You were a part of the crime. You also can be charged with murder or homicide, depending on what the prosecutor's office goes with. Let's get to our next case, Frederick Frazier. What do we know about Mr. Frazier?
Well, what we know about Mr. Frazier is he's wanted for 2 felony cases out of the Cuyahoga County Probation Department, where he failed to appear this past March. In one of the cases from November of 2020, Mr. Frazier reportedly assaulted a police officer on a traffic stop in Parma while being taken into custody for having a firearm. He's prohibited from owning guns due to prior felony convictions of burglary and felony theft. Reports also show that Frazier resisted arrest and assaulted a police officer on another charge, again, while on a traffic stop in Solon in February of this year. I'd like to point out, Dan, that traffic stops like this are often dangerous for police officers because they are so unpredictable. Mr. Frazier has a criminal history that dates back to 2011 with our sheriff's department, so fairly extensive. And he also has a warrant with Garfield Heights for failure to appear. He is 5'4" and 235 pounds and was last known to be staying in the 17,000 block of Judson Drive in the Lee Harvey Harvard neighborhood on the east side of Cleveland. So anyone in that area, if you have some information on Mr. Frazier's whereabouts, you can call in and potentially claim your reward.
And Red, you make a very good point there. This is an individual who's already wanted for assaulting officers on 2 stops. I can't imagine the work that's done by the women and men out there with their badges on. You pull up behind this individual, you pull up his record, you see that this is his history. That is just a scary situation, putting your life on the line trying to protect our community. Let's get to our third and final case this week. We have a George Fielding. What do we know?
Well, Dan, it's alleged in this case that in November of 2022, Mr. Fielding was in possession of methamphetamine and intended to traffic it. It's also alleged in this indictment that this crime occurred within close proximity to a school and that 2 digital scales and a cell phone were used to aid in trafficking this drug. We're once again, Dan, talking about dangerous drugs on our streets and close to our schools, which we do not want. Mr. Fielding failed to appear for arraignment on this case, and a warrant was issued for his arrest. He actually has a violent criminal history with the Sheriff's Department dating back to 2001. One case in specific, in 2013, he pled guilty to domestic violence on a pregnant victim and endangering children. According to the report, Mr. Fielding threw the victim to the floor and beat them with their own purse, which resulted in premature labor. The 18-week-old baby lived for 4 hours and then died. Mr. Fielding is 5'6" and 180 pounds, and he was last known to be staying in the 3000 block of Ralph Avenue in the Old Brooklyn neighborhood on the west side of Cleveland.
Yeah, just a heinous crime there. And I want to explain further to people as well, when you see that schoolyard specification, and in some of the previous cases we had this morning, you see a firearm specification. What that means is you are charged with a crime, and when they add on a specification, it means you did that crime. If it's a firearm specification, you committed that robbery with a gun. That's what it means by specification. And if it is a schoolyard specification, that means that that individual is accused of dealing drugs within a certain radius of a school. Red, let's talk about why the people that are watching this, and this has really been the success of the program, it is a simple phone call, and people may say, hey, I don't want to get involved. I don't want my name on court records somewhere. Tell them why that should not be a concern.
Well, Dan, that should be a concern because we don't take your name, we don't record phone calls, we don't record your phone number. Everything that we do is referenced through an anonymous tip number. It can be done either through calling in, through our website, or through our mobile app.
And with that tip number, if your tip is the one that leads to an arrest, you're given sort of an ID number. You can call that number back at a later date, give them your ID number, see if your tip led to that arrest, and if you are eligible for a reward. It is up to a $5,000 reward, especially in the case of Lonnie Griffin. When we have an individual that's wanted in a murder case, the bigger the crime, sometimes the bigger the payout on that reward. Red, when we start talking about rewards, what do you want the people to know?
That crime doesn't pay, Dan. Crime Stoppers does.
Absolutely it does, up to a $5,000 reward. Detective Red Dyer with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department in connection with Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County. Want to thank you for the time today. Let's get to work. Let's get our public involved and get them to clean up our streets one individual at a time. Thanks for the time today, Red. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, take care. Again, this is an individual for you. This is an opportunity for you to get involved. You can help our community become just a little bit safer, one criminal at a time. Give that tip number a call. We'll show it to you one more time, 216-252-7463, up to a $5,000 reward for information leading to arrest. Our 11 o'clock news just about 20 minutes away on CW 43, then our noon news on Channel 19 with Nicole Versansky. If we have any other breaking news, we're going to bring it to you here on our digital properties. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News Now. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on